Today, we are once again shifting the conversation with Deirdre Van Nest. Hello, Deirdre.
Hey.
Always good to have you on the show. You have a long resume. A lot of people in the industry may know who you are, but I figured I would just introduce you by saying, here's how I know Deirdre. So the world may know you as a top speaker in financial services. You've been doing it for 10 plus years. You speak all over the world. You do presentations and speaking skills. You're a keynoter. Your feedback at conferences is fantastic. But when I think of you, I think of writing a book because I used your blueprint to write a book I wrote with Susan Bradley. I think of you for every presentation because I am a client of yours, have followed your blueprint. And as we're recording today, this morning, I was working on the blueprint for a 1 to 2 minute presentation I'm going to do to every client about rediscovery meetings and something I'm doing in the first quarter of 2024. Well, if I'm going to do it, let's start with the blueprint. So I regularly use the blueprint. You're not only my speaking coach, but you have the format that I've used in so many different environments. So love it. Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for what you do for us. Welcome to the show, Deirdre.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. I love that. And it just makes me, it's part of my why. Like hearing that you use that everywhere, Ross, like I can't tell you what that does for my heart. Because I love keynoting and training and, being on the stage and impacting a lot of lives. But the only thing I love more than that is coaching my clients like you how to do the same thing, how to be amazing on stage, right? How to write great content, how to really just kind of jump off, the page or jump off the stage and just pull people into your world and inspire them and influence them. And you are like such a good example of that. So thank you. It just makes my heart so happy.
No, I love it. I appreciate it. And that's why I follow the blueprint. It works really well, but we're not going to dive into the blueprint today. Before we dive into what you're speaking about at Shift coming up, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I know that you started life in New York. You ended up in Minnesota. You were there for many years, and then you moved to Florida, but it's not exactly a traditional move to Florida. So why don't you share what you're doing now?
Yes, we just moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, which I am thrilled. This is like such a cool, amazing city. If you've never been here before, it's a great place to put on your list. And we are living on a boat. We are living on a boat, which is definitely unusual. But Ross, it's been definitely, my husband and I have been together. We just celebrated actually our 28th wedding anniversary. But we've been to, thank you. We've been together 31 years. But I would say being able to actually live on a boat has been his dream for probably 40 years. I mean, since before I met him, he lived on a boat summers in high school and always thought, I want to do this again. And it probably took him that long to convince me. I always, when I meet with people, especially men, and they're like, you live on a boat. That's so cool. How did your husband get you to do that? And I said, well, my husband actually has an online course where he'll teach you how to get your wife to live on a boat. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, not really, but he's happy to talk to you. So we live on a boat, but I will say this is a testimony to great financial planning. We would not be able to do this if we weren't a student and a client of financial planning. So I think, Ross, I'll talk more about my personal story when I'm at Shift, but I am so locked and loaded on the importance of great financial planning and on the work that advisors do. And I see it in my own life, and us being able to do this at this stage in our life is just, it's pretty amazing and pretty cool. It has its ups and its downs. Like when the power went out in the middle of the night the other night, that was not great. Or when, we don't have water. But what's really great is when I go out and I look off the back deck, and literally, Ross, yesterday there was a dolphin 6 inches off my back deck. It's amazing.
So cool.
It's so cool. And I'll tell you, one of the best parts about this is I've learned to live with less stuff. We actually got rid of almost everything we own to do this. And I got to say, so freeing, so awesome.
Yeah, that is an amazing experience. My wife grew up in St. Petersburg, know the area really well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if we talked about that. You might have told me that. Sorry if I forgot that. Okay, so yeah, you know it well.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great area. It's a very cool thing, and I do love the simplifying and downsizing. It's that's like fantasy land for a lot of people like myself. Like, can you imagine just getting rid of 90% of your stuff and actually downsizing and so forth? So I'll dream about that for a while. Maybe one day it'll
okay.
happen.
I can help you. I'll coach you through that.
Well, I was going to say, as soon as your husband cranks out that course, just send me an email, please, and we'll jump on it. So, all right,
Exactly.
let's
Love it.
transition into the conference. I love that. I
Okay.
appreciate that. You're coming to speak again. Whenever
So
we have a
excited.
conference, we got to have you there, because just the sign behind your head, what's your why? That is the whole issue with Shift the Conversation. When a prospect or a client asks a financial question, because that's how they present to us, we have to shift
Right.
the conversation and find out why they're asking that question, what's behind it.
Yes.
That's really the magic of
Yes.
consultative financial planning. So love the sign up there. Now you're going to do a presentation at Shift. How about you just talk briefly about the topic? What are you going to do at Shift?
Okay. So I want to set it up with this overarching kind of theme, if you will. Okay. So your primary role as a communicator, whether you're communicating one-on-one with a client, from the stage, you're doing a video, you write a book or an article like Ross, no matter how you are communicating, is not your primary role is not making sure your client or your audience member gets what you're saying, from the head standpoint. It's actually making sure they feel what you're saying, and making sure that people feel what you're saying requires a whole new level of skill. This is not a skill actually, you know what? I'm going to go back a second. I think this is a skill many of us were born with. I think little kids are really good at making us feel stuff. Right, Ross?
Sure.
But then I think it kind of gets beat out of you over the years, right? You go through school and everything is this logical argument, logical. You get into this industry, logical. And I'm not saying logic is bad. We need logic. Logic is amazing. Facts are great. Numbers are great. Figures are great. However, if you lead with that, you will be not only missing opportunity in your own business, you're holding your clients back from making decisions. Because Ross, how do people make decisions?
Starts with an emotion.
Starts with emotion. They back it up with logic. So as advisors, as an industry, we have to learn this. And I'm on a mission. And it used to feel like a one-woman mission until Shift came along, quite frankly, Ross. When I spoke last year, I felt like I found my home. It was so exciting to see this conversation finally happening at a bigger, more collective level, where we understand we have to make sure that our clients feel their future. They feel why we're recommending is so important, because that will facilitate the environment for them making great decisions. And so the overarching concept of what I'm teaching is part of that skill set that you're going to need in order to shift from a communicator who focuses primarily on facts and figures and logic to one who starts to primarily focus on feeling and then backs that up with the facts, figure, and logic.
The number one feedback we received after year one at Shift was, I found my people, or I felt like I was home. So we love hearing that. And I love now to joke that I know I'm not the only geek out there. We're all over the place. We love this stuff. We have all different types of practices, small practices, larger practices, big span of ages, but we understand that shifting the conversation and finding out what really matters to someone is more important than the numbers, or at least we have to get that information before we can apply importance to the numbers. And that's part of the shift. It's a cool thing.
And I will say, and Ross did not pay me to say this, did not ask me to say this. I will say I speak at a lot of conferences, right? A lot of financial services conferences. And I will say, if I look back at last year, Shift was absolutely one of my favorite, and probably one of the favorite of my career, Ross. I could not tell you how much I loved it. I loved the content. And most of all, what I loved was the feeling that I got while I was there, and that lasted for days after. There is a feeling there of camaraderie, of love, of collaboration, of inspiration, of next generation. You will come to this conference. I'm getting chills as I say it, Ross. You will come to this conference and you will feel something you might not have felt before in your career. So when I knew he was going to do it again, I was like, please invite me back. I need to come because I want to experience this again.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for getting
Yeah.
me choked up in the middle of a show. I love it. I'm with you. It was an awesome experience. So I can always count
Yes.
on you to make me feel, Deirdre. Way to go. So you
Yeah.
you dive
Yeah.
right in there. So
Yeah.
with your presentation,
Yeah.
I know what it's going to be about. And of course, I've listened to your videos, I've read, we've talked a lot. So I really know the details of it, but I don't want to dive totally into it. But let's kind of
Okay.
take
Yep.
a high level view, which is you're going to
Yes.
talk about the opening. Right. You're talking about
Yes.
the opening of any presentation. So how about we just talk about the mindset I should have as a speaker, as an advisor who is presenting to people? How should I view the opening and what's the importance of the opening?
Yeah, sounds great. So just for some context, so the name of my presentation is Content Creation, How to Connect with Your Audience from the First Words Out of Your Mouth or Keyboard. So even though Ross is saying a presentation, as you mentioned, you use these principles in your book, in your article. So videos, you want to be thinking about the social media posts. You want to be thinking about this everywhere you communicate. Here's the thing. Getting people to feel something isn't something that has to take 3, 5, 10, 20 minutes to achieve. You want to get them feeling something from the very first words out of your mouth or from the first words that they read. Because, as you know, people are super distracted today. There is so much competing for their attention. And let's just take a presentation, Ross. When you're sitting in a presentation, let's pretend it's live for the time being. Your greatest competitor is this. It's the phone, right? So I know at any point, if I'm an audience member, if I get a little bored, scroll through, let's say Ross just sent me a text, I got this email, I'm going on Instagram, I'm going on LinkedIn, whatever it is. And so you have to think about, how do I say something that gets their mind and their heart away from this and totally focused on me? And typically making a logical argument isn't going to do it. You need to say something that grabs their heart and mind within the first couple of seconds, within the first words out of your mouth. Most people, first of all, don't understand that this is something they need to do, and they don't know how to do it. And unfortunately, most presenters are doing this wrong. They are actually doing it the opposite way that it should be done, and they are losing people right away. So my presentation is going to teach you the skill. Like, you will be able to, as soon as you walk out of my session, have the skill and the strategy to grab the attention of any audience, whether it's a listener or a reader, from the first words out of your mouth or off the keyboard.
And I know that in my career speaking, I've had a few opens that were less than wonderful. Part of it was ignorance. And even once I learned, I still had some opens that I looked back and thought, yeah, that didn't quite get it done. I know better. I know the blueprint. I didn't get it done. I've had my awkward ones over the years. I think
we all do.
Everybody has as well. So,
of course.
So what is it about that open that, I don't know if it's instinctive or if it's natural, but to me as a speaker, I'm not doing what you describe, right? I go up and there's just a natural way I get up there and I start talking. So why is that? Why do we do it wrong? It seems instinctive.
Couple of things. One, modeling. When 99% of the people who take the stage do it wrong, you're going to think that's the right way to do it. I mean, isn't that true?
The blind. Yeah.
Right? It is the blind leading the blind. Exactly. It is just the way everybody does it. And so, well, this is the way you do it. And it is not the way to do it. Most people, and you know me, Ross, I'm not like, I try to be very careful with where I draw my black and whites, right? There's a lot of room as a presenter and a communicator for shades of gray. And I believe people need to find their own style, right? And I believe there are rules. And then once you learn the rules, you want to push against the rules and figure out kind of works for you. This is not that type of thing. This is black and white. There is a wrong way to do this and a right way to do this. 99.9% of the people in the world are doing it wrong. And I want to teach you how to do it right. And it's not because like, oh, I cornered the market on this. Like, someone had to teach me how to do it too. This is something, unless you were fortunate enough to have someone in your life who knows this to teach you, you would not know the way to do it. So I'm passing along what I learned way back when from my own speaking coach that has brought me incredible success in my business and that has brought my clients incredible success in their business. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. Did you want me to say anything else about that? I don't want to give everything away here. I want them to come. So is there anything else like I left out that you feel like is important?
Well, I think there's about 10 hours that you left out that I find important, but we're not going to go there. Here's what I'll say.
Right.
In addition to the feedback we got from last year, the requests for sessions at Shift, it's not just the why we do what we do, because most of the people going there, they geek out like I do. They geek out like you do.
Yeah.
They're believers. They want to know how to shift the conversation. So specifically, what I've asked every speaker to do is talk about what the advisor can do and how they can do it, right? It's meant to be a tactical conference of this is what you do, this is how you do it. I know that's how your presentation's set up. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, I already know what it is, but I'm still going to listen to it again because I need to hear it over and over. So Deirdre, thanks for being on the show. Look forward to seeing you at Shift in Orlando.
I'm so excited to see you, Ross, and I'm so excited to see you, the viewer, there as well. Please come up and introduce yourself to me. I would love to meet you personally.